Okay, we have a contract which the school system is bound to uphold. It is our responsibility to do this study so that we can make recommendations which are educated and recommendations which our members understand.
More than 1.4 million Indians live on reservations. Now a government official says the reservations are an example of the failure of socialism. Interior Secretary James Watt said reservations cause overwhelming social development problems for the tribes.
Highest divorce rate, highest drug rate, highest alcoholism rate, highest unemployment rate, highest social diseases, because the people have been trained through 100 years of government oppression to look to the government as the creator, as the provider, as the supplier, and they've not been trained to use the initiative to integrate into the American system.
He's right in one respect that government oppression, he said, has caused the problem, but the solution to the problem is not doing away with reservations. The solution is living up to their trust responsibility and allowing the Indians to become self-sufficient.
Deere said self-sufficiency can only be reached by allowing Indians to develop natural resources on the reservations for the benefit of tribal members. Bill Ross, Action 4.
Time flies when you're having fun. A lot can happen in 2 years. Just looking around this room, I realized to save the Social Security system. We never did get intact what we thought was a well-thought-out economic plan. We had to give way with regard to limits on spending in many areas. We've never gotten as much as we asked for that. We did not get the tax incentive program intact and with the impact that we thought it would have.
When I went inside, I went through the living room, and I went through the bedrooms, and I didn't see anyone, And I knew that there was another room, but I didn't know how to get to it, And I went to the kitchen, and I couldn't go any further because of the fire and the smoke,
When we arrived on the scene, there was visible smoke. Firefighters went inside the house, went into a kind of a den area, opened the door and saw flames and smoke, quickly closed the door. Firefighters brought in a line, put the fire out, and then in searching the area, there was a bedroom just north of this den area, and we found 3 children.
the contract oil. About the next 10 days or so, we'll have to see. The seeds are sown for some difficult times for the oil business if worldwide crude oil prices are driven down because of the inability of OPEC to balance supply and demand. The seeds are there. Whether or not they mature and ripen will depend upon whether someone like Saudi Arabia comes in to stabilize the situation or not.
There's still a lot to learn at Baptist Medical Center.
Local hospitals called it the warm body syndrome, a time when anybody with RN behind their name could get a job. The nurse openings caused serious bed openings for hospitals. They had to cut back on the number of patients coming in because there wasn't anyone to take care of them.
This has a little plastic tip over it.
Now, 2 years later, the problem has turned full circle. There are few openings and lots of applicants. In fact, nurses have even joined the trend of coming from out of state in hopes of finding a job in oil-rich Oklahoma. Unemployment and the economy have had a lot to do with the disappearance of the nursing shortage. The local hospitals also deserve some credit. They've improved salaries, benefits, and just all-around working conditions. Their administrations have given a little and gotten a lot in return.
It's certainly gotten a lot easier to keep our beds open. You know, many hospitals in the city were having trouble keeping beds open and had to close down beds 2 years ago. So that I think we're better able to provide the services that our patients need in this area.
There's a not-so-bright side to this turnaround. Those who reacted to the shortage by joining nursing school 2 years ago may find there's no job waiting for them when they graduate. Sherry Sellers, Action 4.
The word came down about 9:30 this morning. The GM plant in Oklahoma City would be calling 2,800 employees back to work. The entire second shift had been laid off since November of 1981. Since that time, little or no hope had been given to putting the workers back on the job. But all that has changed now. Lower interest rates have stimulated the automobile industry, and GM sees a larger market ahead. Officials at the plant say GM cars are becoming popular with consumers.
Right now they're buying the larger of our smaller cars. We've downsized all cars, but the larger cars, the A's, the B's, and the C's are selling the best. Oh, I'm just real pleased, and I know the people that have been out there out of work will be real pleased at the news, and we're just looking forward to it. It's just a lot more fun to run them on 2 shifts than 1 shift.
According to Mayor, the returning employees will generate a payroll worth of over $70 million. That means additional revenue for the state. About $2.5 million in taxes will be sent to the legislature. The workers should be back on the job by April 25th. And as expected, the employees to be recalled were more than happy about the decision. Action 4's Kurt Autry has more.
Now, you'd rather have Lena than me. I hope. Yeah, well,
I'm not correcting information.
you go ahead. What are these? Get more food.
I can't get it in. Wonderful.
Wheat producers in Oklahoma are dependent on the trucking industry. Trucks haul wheat from elevators in Oklahoma to terminals near Houston, where the product is then shipped overseas. And of course, a lot of hauling is done within the state. How will the truckers' strike affect the agricultural economy? This is the question I asked Frank Moore, Director of Governmental Relations for the Oklahoma Farm Bureau.
It could mean that there might be some export contracts that either wouldn't be filled or would be delayed. And unless those were renegotiated or filled at a later date, why, it would have a depressing effect on the wheat market.
Oklahoma farmers certainly don't need that. Most producers agree that the market is already depressed, and it's been that way too long. So as far as wheat producers are concerned, the trucker strike is not good news. Ben McCain, Action 4.
Corporation Commission. During the past few weeks, the telephones have been buzzing at the Corporation Commission's complaint department. Since the 1st of January, calls have increased from 200 to 2,000 a day. The Commission's toll-free number has become a hotline for consumers angry about Southwestern Bell's proposed rate hike. The problem is, that's not what the 800 number is for.
Well, the consumers around the state that have had some kind of a problem with the utility that they cannot work out, whether it's a billing problem, a deposit problem, even a termination. Those people are facing a crisis and cannot get to us to help resolve that problem because other people are calling the line wanting to oppose the Southwestern Bell increase.
White says the 800 number is not an opinion poll, but a way to help consumers who have problems with utilities. He says if you want to fight the rate hike, don't call. Write the Corporation Commission, room 680, the Jim Thorpe Building, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, 73105. Debbie Mash, Action 4.
These are the feet of Kenneth Waddell. He's a postal carrier with 26 years of experience tucked under his belt. During those years, he's walked through all sorts of weather, ice, snow, sub-zero temperatures, but he wouldn't have it any other way. To him, it's part of the job, a job that he enjoys, even when it means putting the galoshes and heavy coat on.
Main deal is getting through, I think. It gets it's kind of hard every now and then, but one today didn't seem like it's too bad. Pretty enjoyable whenever you got the right decent weather. Days like today is kind of bad, but still, it isn't all that tough.
So Kenneth will keep walking, and walking, and walking. He's got another 6 years before retirement, another 6 Oklahoma winters, and days like today.
Rain, snow, or sleet. I think we'd like to get that out of our contract one of these days.
Oklahoma City food stamp recipients are preparing themselves for the worst. That is, if President Reagan's proposed budget is approved. The administration wants more than $1 billion cut from the food stamp program. Thus, thousands of Oklahomans would have to make do with less food stamps each month. Since aid to families with dependent children has already been cut to the bare bone, the food stamp program is the easiest to chop even more. Action 4 talked with some food stamp recipients about the program.
If I didn't have food stamps, I could make it, but it would be a lot more difficult for me. But this is only temporary until I can get a good paying job.
That's the only way they can support their kids, really, by food stamps. If they can't find no job, you know, can't bring in no money, can't bring in the food.
Under the president's plan, able-bodied applicants will be required to work in exchange for food stamps. And the message is clear to recipients. Don't expect to walk away with as many groceries in the future as you do now. Ed Stewart, Action 4, Northwest Oklahoma City.
%90 of all produce is shipped by independent truck drivers. Farmers in Florida are asking the National Guard to protect drivers willing to haul produce north. In fact, farmers say if they don't get help soon, their vegetables will rot in the fields. An official with the American Agricultural Movement, Bernie Crothers of Gary, Oklahoma, says his organization sympathizes with the independent drivers.
We feel that any increase in transportation and the truckers, both the independents and the organized truckers, the big companies will have to increase their cost to make a profit. And that cost will revert back to the producers because there's no place else for it to come from. It's got to come right back to us. And we don't like these increases being put on the truckers because we're going to have to pay it.
Many drivers are already charging more for their shipments when they arrive at marketplaces because they're risking violence on the road. Produce buyers say the higher cost will eventually be passed on to consumers. Ben McCain, Action 4.
The Boy Scouts are changing with America, but our views are being more conservative-minded now and towards where we want to grow up to be a good citizen instead of someone that wants to always tear down the things that generations of Americans have tried to put up. And I think it's just a sign of our times that we're trying to get back to the basic things that have made our nation great before, trying to make our nation great once again.
One joint effort, that's on trying to get
primarily of concrete patch repairs at various locations within the project limits. Thomas is very similar to the previous item. The existing bridge is traffic volume 1,600 vehicles per day with a considerable number of large commercial vehicles being the bridge structure. Estimated cost $50,000.
Today we're deferring action on the advertising approval for those projects in which federal fund participation is involved. The Commission is doing this because the Commission has not had sufficient time to assess the impact of the recently enacted federal aid highway legislation on the highway construction program. Which will be available, and most importantly, the effect of the matching fund requirements on our current state fund availability. It's the intent of this Commission to deal with this matter in an expeditious
resolved to recommend the employment of Dr. Donald L. Wright as superintendent of Oklahoma City Public Schools at a base annual salary of $65,000 with an employment contract to be developed by a committee of 3 board members appointed and chaired by the board president and assisted by the school district attorney, working in conjunction with Dr. Wright, and submitted to the board for approval.
Okay.
Be sure your tires are properly inflated. It says the meaning of a sentence rather than a grammar may be. And yes, of course, following the exclamation point. You understand? I want you to choose 4 on that sentence. All right, one at a time. Hold your hand up. Hold your hand up, Terry.
Command. Do cars have brakes? Question.
What I'm saying is we lengthen the school day and go the same amount of time in 4 days as we do in 5. Therefore, being able to save on certain things on that one day, such as utilities, food costs, transportation costs, whatever we might be able to cut back on it.
From Sesame Street, how about it for Big Bird? Big Bird, right there. See?
Big Bird is Sesame Street's largest feathered friend. He and his TV buddies took some time off tonight to visit a very important person. A visit from Cookie Monster would mean a lot to any 5-year-old.
How about a special round of applause for the Fraternal Order of Police for lining up these special guests tonight, all our favorite cartoon characters for Angie.
It's extra special for Angie Hubble. Angie is the police department's 8th Make-A-Wish child. She has terminal brain cancer. Her wish was to have a party with balloons and clowns.
Make up your mind, Trixie! Let me line you up here. This is the way you line up for a picture. Get in here, oh boy.
Shriners, policemen, and OU students pitched in to make Angie's dream come true.
All your dreams will come true, must wait.
Half a decade of life left Angie Hubble with her simple dream. Tonight, that dream came true with the help of Make-A-Wish.
Groups all across the country say that the problem of drinking and driving has become an epidemic in this country, and groups all across the country are trying to combat it. Different groups, though, have different solutions, but one most agree on is raising the age of legal drinking to 21. The State House is considering a move to raise the beer drinking age in Oklahoma to 19, and at a public hearing today, nearly no one was happy. Some didn't think the measure was enough. Others thought it was too much.
18, 19, 20-year-olds in the state of Oklahoma are classified as adults in courts of law. We exercise our responsibilities taken on for this country by voting and by registering for the draft. Because we do this, we feel that we should have the rights and privileges granted to all adults in this state. Among these privileges is the right to consume and purchase 3.2 beer.
If we allow this abuse to continue and for unregulated, unmature 18-year-olds to drink, then we might as well allow a murderer to get on the streets and take a gun and shoot us.
It is doubtful the drinking age will be raised to 21 this year, because House Speaker Dan Draper, who represents the Oklahoma State University area, offered the 19-year-old compromise. Lawmakers will have to decide if raising the age limit will be tampering with rights or privileges, or whether it would solve the problem. Charles Schnitzer, Action 4, at the state capitol.
The age of 19, I would have to vote against that 19-year-old raise.
How long will it be before we see pari-mutuel wagering in Oklahoma? The chairman of the Oklahoma Horse Racing Commission says it could be up to 2.5 years. When it does come to the Sooner State, Alan Cole says he wants it to be the best.
We have an advantage right now. We're the 31st state. We can look at the other states and take the advantage out of each one. And Oklahoma is used to #1. And #1 in racing we will have, and we will have the quality that they all deserve. So we want the showplace of America to be in Oklahoma. We deserve it. Oklahomans are used to being #1, and we're going to have it in horse racing.
The chairman of the commission stressed that a lot of time is being spent on studying the workings of pari-mutuel wagering. Coles is confident horse racing in Oklahoma will be top of the line because he says the commissioners, legislators, and the governor are dedicated to having it this way. Ben McCain, Action 4.